Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are creating this custom acrylic welcome sign using foil adhesive. Here are some of the materials that I am using today. I have my acrylic sheet. This is a 24 by 32 inch, a sponge to help apply my paint to that, a few tools to help apply the foil and transfer tape, of course my Cricut mat and Cricut maker. So this is actually the second time that I filmed this. The first time that I tried, I did one cut on my Cricut maker and it was absolutely so difficult to weed. Some of the spots, I don't know how to even explain it, but it's like it didn't cut all the way through. So then I was having to make my own cuts on it. And with this foil mirrored finish, you can definitely tell any flaws in the lettering. So what I did was go back to my Cricut maker with some new foil adhesive. I actually ran that through my machine twice. So I did my regular cut, let that go all the way through without pulling that out of my machine. I just hit the Cricut button again to start that same cut over again. And what it ended up doing was doing a second cut, and it is much easier for me to weed now. As always, I'm going to cut a few lines in between each of the wording and sentences just so it's easier for me to weed. And with this, you do have to put quite a lot of pressure just to cut the line in between. And the best way that I can describe this material is it feels almost like a thin metal sheet when it's in your hand, and it's almost like aluminum foil, so definitely have to use some more pressure when you are cutting lines and weeding this. So much easier already than before. Okay, now that I have my 2 sheets of decals cut, I'm going to put the transfer tape on. So now I'm just going to cut the decals away from each other so I can arrange these on the acrylic sign. And just a little hint, whenever I am trimming this, I do get as close to the lettering as possible, just to help align this on my acrylic sheet. Okay, so I have my Cricut cutting mat. This is not the same mat that goes in your machine. This is just for measurement purposes. But I have the acrylic sheet pushed up to the top of it and aligned with the top line. And I am going to use the marks as a grid to help center and align my decals. Typically with the 24 by 32 inch signs, I place the top lettering, basically line up the top of that to the 3-inch mark. So 1, 2, 3 inches down from the top. And then I do my best to align the top with the lines underneath. And then you also want to make sure that it is centered. So once it is in its spot, I just take some masking tape to secure that. And I'm going to do the same with the bottom half. So now that I have the bottom and the top decals in place, I am going to go ahead and use the hinging method to apply those. Now I have watched videos of other people using this foil adhesive and it has a really hard time coming off of the backing. As you can see, like that one did not pick up. So I am really going to be using a heavy hand with this tool to try to get that to release onto the transfer tape. And if you need to, might have to kind of flip it over. So it's definitely not the easiest material to work with by any means. Definitely have to do the double cut, and then this is taking some time, but it's not too bad. If you're doing this for your wedding, I would possibly, like if you absolutely want the foil, do your welcome sign in the foil and then like your seating chart and the rest in the Oracal matte metallic gold. It's going to be just so much easier. That, and then start working on this other side. Okay, so that side was a little bit easier. Might be getting the hang of it now. exact paint colors linked down in the video description, but what I did was take the two pinks. I just kind of roughly mixed those, like not where they're totally blended or anything, because I wanted like a little bit of contrast still. So I just kind of roughly dabbed my sponge into those pinks and then started getting that onto the back of the acrylic sheet. So I do one kind of lighter coat on this, but I do kind of make it pretty even across the entire sheet. If you were to hold this like up to some light, you would definitely see a ton of light coming through, and that's because I want the second layer to definitely have some contrast in between the pinks and then the vanilla white that we are going to add. This is going to add that textured look that we love so much on these signs. It really doesn't need much time to dry in between each layer, since it does take so long to kind of dab on the paint with the sponge. Once I've worked my way down to the other side of the acrylic, it's pretty much ready for the next layer. And I'm also in Colorado, so it is super dry here. If you are somewhere like in Florida or Texas where it is super humid, it might take your paint a little longer to dry, but just kind of make sure it is pretty dry before you move on to the next color. For the third and final layer, I just mixed all of the paint that I had left, the pinks and the white, and just did a even coat on the very back. This is just to try to give it a more solid look, so when you are taking pictures of it, you are not seeing completely through the sign. Let me know if you enjoyed this video by giving it a thumbs up, and let us know what kind of project you are working on down in the comment section. See you again soon!